Hello, soulmates. You know, I feel that Friday spirit coming on.
Come on,
it's
Friday
here.
spirit.
It's almost
Come
here.
on, spirit.
Hey, soulmates. Plenty to talk about on this Thursday. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report. We're following reactions from really around the world as legendary music icon Tina Turner has passed on, plus how George Floyd is being honored on this already third anniversary of his unfortunate death. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. Plus, there's concerns for the future of Black Lives Matter and what Adidas is doing to give back to social justice organizations. They're the stories that impact our people.
We're bringing you our news, our views, and our voice. So, topping, of course, our conversation for today, President Biden urged Congress to pass police reform legislation on the 3-year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. The president emphasized the need for fair and impartial justice for all following Floyd's tragic death at the hands of a police officer who knelt on his neck for over 9 minutes. The incident, captured on video, ignited nationwide outrage and sparked protests against police brutality. Despite House approval, the George Floyd Justice in Police Act, which bans things like chokeholds and no-knock warrants, failed to pass the Senate. Biden called on Congress to act and vowed to continue fighting for police accountability.
Well, you know, Courtney, I can hardly believe that it has been 3 years since we witnessed the murder of George Floyd. And, you know, that reverberated not just across the country, but around the world. You know, I was going on social media and looking to see, you know, what our leaders are looking to do next, because as you know, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act stalled in the U.S. Senate. Noticeably absent voice was Senator Tim Scott, one of the lead negotiators in the Senate on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Notice that he didn't tweet anything. He hasn't posted anything as of the time of this show. I saw that Senator Booker, the other lead negotiator in the Senate, did tweet something, but it was rather underwhelming. But still, the Congressional Black Caucus, right before we went on, I got a note from a source saying that Congressional Black Caucus Chair Steve Horsford is going to launch a briefing tomorrow announcing Democracy for the People, a summer of action. And so they're leaving D.C. and they're going to be out in places across the country, in Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee, really sort of continuing the momentum that we saw grow from the outrage around George Floyd's murder.
How interesting is it that we're on the third anniversary of George Floyd's murder? We're on the first anniversary of the tragedy in Uvalde, Texas. 19 babies killed, 2 teachers along with those 19 killed as well, and then 17 are injured, still in recovery, and probably some type of forever recovery. Just a tragic events. And so you have police brutality, you have gun violence still at the forefront of our minds, at the conversations. We're still suffering on both ends, and here we are about to enter into an election season, and I just don't see and sense and hear and feel the urgency just yet.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. But it's also important to note, you know, that there is a lot that has come out of the murder of George Floyd. You know, people can't look away. They can't look away from, you know, the gross injustice that we see. And, you know, look at, you know, the Tyree Nichols case, you know, look at so many other cases, you know, that have gotten the attention that they deserve, you know, because folks were awakened during the George Floyd protest. And so we got to keep up the work.
We do. We absolutely do.
Well, legendary entertainer Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll, has passed away at the age of 83, leaving an immense void felt across generations.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. Better than anyone I've ever met. I'm stuck on your heart.
Angela Bassett, who portrayed Turner in a biographical film, What's Love Got to Do with It, paid tribute, highlighting Turner's impact on love, compassion, and freedom. Former President Barack Obama praised Turner's power and fearlessness, while Oprah Winfrey recalled the enchanting experience of joining Turner on stage. Magic Johnson expressed his admiration for her incomparable talent, and Diana Ross, Ciara, and Mick Jagger shared how heartfelt messages acknowledging Turner's influence on music and performance. Even NASA honored Turner, recognizing her sparkling presence that will forever remain among the stars. The world mourns the loss of the iconic Tina Turner, forever remembered for her extraordinary legacy.
I mean, what do you say? I was watching a lot of the coverage yesterday, but what do you say? I think it's reflective of where she was, like spiritually, just being still. So you just stay still in the memories. You may bop to the music, move to the music, and you just really begin to realize that we've lost another great, and then kind of shift and redirect yourself to continue to live in the legacy. Thank God for the music and the memories, and that's really where it is for me right now. It's kind of like an overwhelming feel of loss, in the sense that we keep reporting about this grand generation that we keep losing. Tina Turner would be on the younger end of it in her early, having passed in her early 80s. But when you think about who we've just lost, Harry Belafonte, all those in that generation, I just hope that we can carry on, especially with what they laid out. And just their rich life, the ups and the downs, which a lot of this generation was very transparent about. They couldn't help but to be.
And speaking of ups and downs, I mean, one of the low points in her life, one of the tragedies in her life was the domestic abuse that she endured for years at the hands of Ike Turner. And what I love so much about the memory of Tina Turner is that she used to be remembered not for that tragedy, but for her triumph. It's because she had the courage to tell her story that so many women across the country and around the world felt that courage to tell their story, and to get out of their situation. And she just raised the profile of domestic violence as an issue in our country and around the world. And we owe a great debt to her. She is a great American for that reason and so many more. Yeah,
she said, all I wanted was my name. And I mean, that speaks to know thyself.
Yeah.
She had, and she might have been a little in a gray area, professionally and personally, but at the very core of that, she knew that there was some worth there.
Yeah.
She just had to work to get there.
And it's also important to note that the Tina Turner that our generation knows is the Tina Turner after 40 years old. I mean, she's a great example that, what Bevy Smith says, it gets greater later.
Greater later.
It sure does.
Bevy should be getting paid for that one. All right, let's move on to California, where Governor Gavin Newsom is considering media mogul Oprah Winfrey for a potential appointment to fill Senator Dianne Feinstein's seat amid growing health concerns. Newsom had promised to appoint a black woman to the position if it became available. This move may serve as a temporary solution until a replacement is chosen in 2024, allowing Newsom to avoid favoritism among current Senate candidates. Feinstein, the oldest sitting member of Congress, has expressed her intention to complete her term until 2025. Winfrey has not provided a response to the injury. And I remember years ago, everybody was like, Oprah Winfrey for president. She was like, oh, no, thank you. Come on, Newsom. Is he just throwing her out there? I think Auntie O is.
I think he is. Governor Newsom, come on. There's a long list of black women that are worthy of your consideration to be appointed to that seat.
That's right.
Oprah is a woman of many talents, and I'm sure she would be great. But there are a lot of people that are more steeped in the issues before the Senate that be able to hit the ground running, and they deserve consideration. One of which is Representative Barbara Lee, who happens to be running for U.S. Senate in California. There are plenty of other folks to consider, and so this is going to make headlines, Governor Newsom, right? But there's a long list of talent in California, including but not limited to Oprah Winfrey.
But if you follow Oprah, you know that's not her jam. You know what I'm saying? She'll be involved in stand-up when she chooses to, but that's not her thing. She said that before when people were urging her to run for president. Now, she's had a great eye over the years. She introduced us to Barack and Cory Booker and all those great folks, but she's never been interested in being in those seats. Come on, Governor Newsom, you got a lot to do out there in California. You better stop playing these political games and name somebody serious on to sit in this seat. Stop playing. Okay, I'm done.
No, you on point. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
According to a recent poll conducted by Marquette Law School, Justice Clarence Thomas has surpassed Justice Brett Kavanaugh as the Supreme Court's least popular justice. The survey conducted in May 2023 reveals that Thomas received a 25% favorable rating and a 36% unfavorable rating, resulting in an 11-point net negative view. Kavanaugh closely followed with a 22% favorable rating and a 32% unfavorable rating, reflecting a 10-point net negative view. All right now.
I ain't never heard that
enough
before.
Enough with the math. What is important for you to know is that the poll also indicates a decline in confidence in the Supreme Court since 2019. The survey interviewed over 1,000 adults nationwide with a margin of error of about 4 percentage points.
Well, that was a math class, wasn't it?
Right, it sure was.
I have never heard of like a negative, I don't like you. Have you ever heard that before? Listen, as you know, an African-American man, I can appreciate the come up. I mean, when you talk about the beginnings, and he sits in the highest court in the land, so I can appreciate the come up, much like Dr. Ben Carson, who's a fellow native Detroiter. I appreciate the come up, the genius, the smarts, the intelligence, the contributions. It's the politics that sort of kind of make me go left. It's the platforms that make me go left. It's the rhetoric that make me go left. It's his wife that makes me go left with him. But from a standpoint of somebody just rising up, I can appreciate that. Everything else,
I was talking to a friend of mine who is a lawyer, and they were saying to me that there's so much about what Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has allegedly done on the ethics front. And not done, more importantly, on the ethics front, that flies in the face of what they learn in law school. I mean, he is like the personification of, all the ethical dilemmas that you don't want to get yourself into. And so it's sad to see that the justice that took Justice Thurgood Marshall's seat on the U.S. Supreme Court, seems to be falling far short of the integrity that Justice Marshall brought to that court.
I wasn't going to bring up the scandal with Ms. Hill. That threw me for a left loop as well.
I mean, he's been ridden with scandals for a long time, and seemingly an enabler, of a MAGA agenda in the judiciary and on the highest court.
I don't think he really cares about what we think about him. He's going to just continue to do his thing, and so are we. Let's move on here. Black community leaders stand in support of Miami-Dade School Board member Dorothy Bendros Mendingle, calling for Vice Chair Danny Espino to apologize after excluding her from a meeting. The demands for apology were voiced during the May 17th board meeting, with leaders from organizations like the NAACP expressing their outrage at the treatment of Bendros Mendingle, the board's senior black member. The incident has sparked calls for immediate action from the board to rectify the situation. Discussions during the meeting also centered around minority participation in district contracts and transparency.
Target is making changes to its nationwide LGBTQ merchandise plan ahead of Pride Month, following intense backlash from customers. The retailer cited threats to employees' safety and well-being as the reason for adjustments. Incidents included knockdown pride displays, confrontations with workers, and threatening videos shared on social media. Now, while specific items were not disclosed, concerns were raised over quote-unquote tuck-friendly swimsuits and designs by a London-based company featuring occult and satanic themes. These adjustments come amid a surge of bills targeting LGBTQ individuals in state legislatures across the country.
So to Memphis now, where police conducted a welfare check at the Tennessee home of Grizzlies guard Ja Morant. The check follows cryptic messages he posted on his Instagram account, including a caption saying, "Bye." The Shelby County Sheriff's Office confirms that Morant is, quote, fine and has taken a break from social media. Now, last week, the Grizzlies suspended Morant indefinitely from team activities after he appeared in a friend's live IG holding a gun. In a statement, the 23-year-old player takes accountability for his actions and expresses a commitment to personal growth. Do we believe him this time around?
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. Don't tell me, show me. Show me that you've learned from this. Show me that you're doing better. Show me that you're getting the help that you need. Show me that you take, this seriously, and that, you're not just, acting like a kid, but, you're acting like, a young man and addressing this issue head on. I mean, there are so many people that were rooting for Ja Morant, to overcome this. And it seems self-inflicted. It seems so unnecessary. And, if he needs help, goodness gracious, hopefully the support system around him will give him the help that he needs. Help to get him the help that he needs. Don't just celebrate somebody when they score big on the court. You got to be there to support them when they fall down off the court.
Well, hopefully with this last incident, if he does need the help, that his sincerity won't be dismissed. They're saying he's taking accountability, but his credibility is shot right now. And I hope that whoever is a part of his village, his community, can really get through to him this time around.
Coming up, there's a new report that says Detroit is no longer the largest majority black city.
Say it ain't so. We'll tell you what the Census Bureau folks are saying in regards to the city that is now replacing the Motor City. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We'll be right back, Soulmates.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, many black children miss out on Social Security payments, the ones that they're entitled to. This is at least according to a recent analysis.
So only 26% of black children who have lost a parent receive survivor payments compared to 46% of non-black minors. This highlights the urgent need for improved access and advocacy to ensure equal distribution of these benefits.
That's right. Experts call for reforms to address the issue and raise awareness among eligible families. Action is necessary to prevent black children from falling through the cracks of the system.
The only thing I can think of is upon maybe the, unforeseen, or maybe, a death that, couldn't be avoided, that there's maybe a lack of information or a lack of knowledge as to what the minor is entitled to. There might be some confusion as to, maybe if the parent, didn't work, or, were there unemployment benefits, or were they receiving Social Security and other, benefits. There's that and confusion surrounding that. And I just think it boils down to just a lack of knowledge and not understanding the resources or where to go to tap into the resources to get some answers.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. I mean, my mind right away goes to, how many of these kids are in the child welfare system? How many of them are foster youth? We know that this month is Foster Care Awareness Month, and sometimes, when kids are being moved from home to home in order to find their forever home, there's a lot that gets lost in translation. How many of these kids just don't have all of the required paperwork in order to
claim
these benefits?
Right.
And so, I think that's worth looking into, but astonishing, because there are resources out there. But to your point, if people don't know they exist, what difference does it make?
And let's talk about the kids who do get the benefits, but because they're dealing with ill-minded guardians or other relatives, the money doesn't trickle down and take care of them the way it's supposed to. That's probably should be a part of that conversation as well.
Lots to talk about.
Oh, yes. All right. Newly released Census Bureau data reveals that Memphis has surpassed Detroit as the largest major black city in the U.S.
Say it ain't so.
It's so. The data shows Memphis, with a black population of just over 621,000, edging out Detroit by only 680 residents. Both cities have a higher percentage of black residents compared to larger cities like New York, the Chi, which has seen a steady population decline over 70 years. Field challenges against the census. Detroit filed some challenges against the Census Bureau estimates because they don't agree with it. They're disputing these figures. A demographer predicts that Detroit will regain its title as the largest major black city next year, emphasizing caution in interpreting population estimates.
So how many of your cousins moved to Memphis? I mean, 680 folks? That's the difference between whether or not Detroit or Memphis holds the trophy for majority black city?
Or Republican or Democratic president. That's how close. That's what that number reminded me of. I don't know. Detroit has been struggling for a minute as far as population is concerned. This is a city built for a lot of folks, and very quickly it downturned, and so that's why we got a lot of space and a lot of buildings. Mm-hmm. But if we're coming back and the re-gentrification and folks coming back to the city, the revitalization of the river and the riverfront, I think folks will continue to come back. We got to get some more industry here. We got to get these schools together. We got to get these streets safe. We have the same challenges as other major cities across the U.S. But Memphis, that's one of the top 5 dangerous cities in the country. So somebody staying there, maybe it's the barbecue. I don't know. But you got Memphis, Mobile, Birmingham, Baltimore, and St. Louis as some of the top 5, not in that order, dangerous cities. So it's very surprising to hear that Memphis is growing and thriving, but that's a good look. Yeah. It's just kind of contradicting a little bit.
I'm always cautious when those lists come out about the most dangerous cities because, you take Chicago, for example. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are public safety issues in Chicago, but it's not like every single place in Chicago is unsafe, right? Similarly, in DC, in Oakland, and so many other places, across the country. But, look, folks are going where there is opportunity. And, right now, it looks like, Memphis is edging out Detroit in terms of that opportunity. And so this is a good challenge to have.
Yeah, I get it.
And so hopefully, Detroit City Council, Detroit Mayor, they're listening, on ways to create more opportunity.
But they're still going to challenge those numbers because they feel they're in error. They feel Detroit is still, edging folks out.
I think the best way to challenge those numbers is create more opportunity here.
Ooh-wee.
Just saying. Well, the head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, issued a warning that the next pandemic could be even deadlier than COVID-19. Dr. Tedros emphasized the ongoing threat of new variants and the potential for a more dangerous pathogen to emerge. While the COVID-19 pandemic is no longer a health emergency, Dr. Tedros urged immediate and decisive action to prevent future devastation. He called for global preparedness, enhanced surveillance, and updated regulations to detect and respond to emerging diseases. The system at all made when it came to, addressing the COVID-19, pandemic in a robust and dynamic way. Think about when we first heard about monkeypox, which we now refer to as mpox. If we didn't have, the public health system that we have today, then, that could have been an even worse crisis. And so these crises are not going to stop. Yeah. They're going to keep coming. And so we shouldn't panic, but we should prepare. Don't panic. Prepare.
I'll give you that, but I also just don't, look, we're still on the heels of COVID. We're still dealing with COVID. People are still coming down with COVID. We are still wrapping our minds around the fact that COVID is here to stay, kind of like getting the flu, and you have to go about really managing that. And I think the mpox, quote unquote, scare came on the heels of COVID, because I remember hearing about mpox and going, okay, what now? And so, mentally, people are struggling to rebound from just the dire effect that whole pandemic had on us. And we're a resilient people, but we also lost some good folks. Mm-hmm. We also lost some soldiers, some family members who should still be here for Memorial Day weekend, eating the barbecue sauce, the barbecue and so on and so forth. So that's still devastating, and that's still wreaking havoc. And so to kind of, I appreciate the forewarning, but just slow down a little bit and let people continue to process what the hell just happened? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Before you put some more out there.
Yeah.
It just, people are going to get a little desensitized, and then when something hits, you're going to wonder why they're not, you know, doing what you think they should be doing.
Actually, we need to be
Gotta
mindful
pace that thing.
of frightening people. We want to inform people. We don't want to frighten people. But you know what? We've got more for you still ahead. Civil and social rights activist Shaun King. He's helped so many, but now he's in need of help.
We'll tell you what's going on with King and how you can support him in recovering. Soulmates will be right back. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.
A Manhattan, New York school built for black children during the era of slavery will now be deemed a landmark.
Wow, a New York City Commission voted unanimously to preserve the colored school number 4. Historian Eric K. Washington submitted a request for the city to evaluate and grant the school official landmark status in 2018. 4 years later, he spearheaded a grassroots campaign and organized a petition, which garnered more than 2,800 signatures for the landmark success.
That's right. The 3-story, 175-year-old structure was built in 1849 and 1850. It served as a school for black students from 1860 to 1894. This is according to the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission. Now, the city will now provide $6 million in funding to restore colored school number 4, which city officials estimate will be fully restored by 2027.
Wow, take that, anti-woke movement. Take that, take that. What you gonna do, ban a whole school? This just really proves...
If it was in Florida, they just might do it. Well, luckily it's in New York.
I mean, but this just proves, and how ironic, it's a school.
Yeah.
This just proves that, you know, the history is there. You can deny it all you want to. That's why that man, the power went out during that man's presidential announcement.
DeSantis.
Because, the devil is busy. And sometimes the devil could be busy for a good reason. That's why that power went out. But this is just a exclamation mark on our history. It is here, it is real. This is a physical embodiment of it. Stop trying to erase it. Include it, put it in them books, leave it in the books. You know, trust our teachers to teach it the way it should be taught, the same way I learned about Christopher Columbus and that lie. And let's move forward as a country that can at least acknowledge and appreciate and celebrate everybody's path.
And let's also appreciate the history, the fact that this was a New York school that was built for black children during the era of slavery, right? That alone was a revolutionary act during its time, right? And so sometimes when we look back on our history, you know, there are a lot of folks out there that want to just sort of tell sort of a victim narrative. There are a lot of folks that want to talk about, you know, all the bad stuff that was done, as opposed to the folks that had the courage, the people who practiced radical imagination, and against great odds decided to do something extraordinary. And so you're right, that is history that is worth celebrating for generations. And I'm so glad that the New York City, Historical Preservation Society got this right.
That's right. All right, journalist and social activist Shaun King is asking for your help. In a new social media post, the activist said he's been diagnosed with a painful nerve condition that's left him unable to do some of the most basic actions without experiencing, quote, excruciating agony. He also said his insurance won't cover the recommended treatment, so King has reached out to his more than 3 million followers on social media in an appeal to help him pay for the medical procedures. King has for years been dragged by unfounded allegations of scamming in an effort to line his pockets via online donations. None of those claims have been proven to be true, and I can see him having a lot of supporters who might, reach out and help him in this matter.
Listen, I think it's important not to assume malintent. Shaun King has been, at the forefront of making a lot of cases of injustice more visible to us, helping to connect the dots, helping to follow the money. And right now, he's in need of some money to get the care that he needs. I think it's absolutely terrible that health insurance companies are in the position to be able to deny people the treatments that their doctors say that they need. This isn't him walking into the insurance office saying, hey, I would like to have this procedure. There was a doctor that said, this is the course of treatment we prescribe. And the fact that in this country, in the United States, health insurance companies are in the position to be able to decide for us what treatments we're able to have and what treatments we can't have, I think that's still a problem.
Don't get me started. I'm in a fight right now. I'm not going to mention what insurance company, but I'm a resident of Georgia. We moved up here to do FOXSOUL's Black Report. Resident of Georgia, so I had everything I needed to be done from the rooter to the tutor down in Georgia. I couldn't stay down there for the mammogram, okay, which is here, it's covered. Get up here, they say you have to go see a doctor to get a prescription an order to get the mammogram. So all of a sudden, I'm getting all these bills, $260 here, $240 here once. I'm like, what is the problem? The insurance company said, well, you maxed out. I said, well, how? I said, because this is all I needed up here in Michigan, and you're saying you're covering these mammograms. What are you nickel and diming me about? So we're going around and around in the circles now, and it just frustrates me how much of a ripoff and a disappointment health insurance is. Period.
Run tell that.
It really is.
Well, we need to get it together. That's why, we say healthcare in this country, there are people that believe that it is not a privilege, but it should be a human right, right? And that fight continues. And so y'all better beware of who you vote for and don't vote for.
Or maybe move to Canada. Don't they have universal health care?
Just saying.
Right across the bridge from here.
Right across, just do a little swim. Well, moving along, Black Lives Matter Global Foundation faces a financial crisis with records showing an $8.5 million deficit last year and a dramatic drop in donations. The foundation is also under investigation for potential misappropriation of funds for personal gain. It is important to distinguish the foundation from Black Lives Matter Grassroots. That's the group that's responsible for the movements on the groundwork. Now, Black Lives Matter Grassroots has released a statement clarifying their separation from the Global Foundation, highlighting that the foundation took their financial resources and name over a year ago. The two entities are currently engaged in a legal battle over the rights associated with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Leaving all of the soulmates across the land, near and far, confused as hell. I remember we had one guest on and she, clarified it, but I still walked away from that interviewing scratching my tracks because it's so closely related and it's become so confusing and a gray area. You don't know how to follow the breadcrumbs, if you will, and who to support. I'm assuming we need everybody as far as our fight for justice and getting justice for these families, these victims, police brutality, the gun laws, the whole nine. But help us out here. Who do we follow? Who do we trust? Who's on code? Where's this message come? Are y'all together? Are y'all separate? It's really confusing.
I think part of one way I look at it is Black Lives Matter Global Foundation. That's where a lot of the money resided, right? And so, we reported on the story of sort of the $90 million or almost $100 million that they had and lost, control of, and they're fighting that out in court. So that's where the money resides, but where the people reside is Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which has chapters across the country, right? And it was Black Lives Matter Grassroots that sort of called attention to the fact that, wait a minute, we're not getting the resources that we need. And so they're figuring all of that out. But I think what is important to focus on is that the work continues. I think sometimes we get caught up, in some of the internal politics, and there are lots here within the Black Lives Matter organization, but each and every day we're reporting on issues related to police misconduct. We're reporting on, racial injustice, that our people are suffering from across the country. And look, my understanding is that the Black Lives Matter Grassroots organization is more dedicated than ever. They just don't have the same resources that they had 3 years ago.
But the optics don't look good. Sounds like some infighting to me, and that doesn't look good. All right, Adidas has announced that proceeds from the sale of its remaining Yeezy inventory will be donated to Philanese and Keita Floyd Institute for Social Change and the Family Foundation of police brutality victim George Floyd. Adidas will also donate proceeds from Yeezy's sales to the Anti-Defamation League, the gesture comes in light of Kanye West's prior statements about the Jewish community and others. If the tail of the tape, if y'all don't pull it from the files, I said, Adidas, donate the shoes.
You did say that.
I did.
You sat right there in that chair.
Can
You
I get
sure
a
did say
check for that or no? That's on the house. That's humane.
We're just here as public servants.
Oh, I said it.
You did say it.
I said donate. What's the
I'm giving you
problem?
your credit. You're
Thank
right.
you.
You're right. And
Adidas.
And I think they're doing the right thing and keep it coming. I mean, I think there are a lot of companies that have made commitments 3 years ago. I mean, right now we're commemorating the 3rd anniversary of the violent death of George Floyd and the movement that followed. It's important to note that there were a lot of companies that made a lot of commitments that they haven't come through on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money that's unspent. There's a lot of work to do, and we've got to find a way to fill that gap. And so, to all the corporate executives and nonprofit executives that are listening, we know who you are. And we ain't gonna say your name, but we know who you are, and we know what you committed to, and so do what you said you were gonna do.
Well, somebody from those corporations, somebody's listening to and watching Fox Soul's Black Report, because I said to donate the shoes, and they have donated the shoes.
All right.
I don't get a cut of nothing.
But
just for the suggestion, marketing, promotion.
No, you don't. Moving along. There's more to come on Fox Soul's Black Report, including the prison sentence of rapper Fetty Wap.
Yeah, we'll tell you what he's convicted of and how long he'll be away for. We'll be right back, soulmates. I don't get nothing.
Nothing.
Why?
Public service. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, Amanda Gorman is criticizing a decision to ban her poem written for President Biden's inauguration from being read at a Florida elementary school.
And has since been invited to Miami to perform her historic poem. The Bob Graham Education Center in Miami Lakes has placed her poem titled The Hill We Climb on a restricted list after a parent complained it contained, quote, hate messages. Gorman says she's, quote, gutted by the decision.
Yeah, after word spread, the mayor of Miami-Dade County has invited Gorman to visit and read her work to an audience. The poem and books are still available for older children in the district.
Yeah, still available. So, those parents or those people who, are a little bit more free thinking and understand that this is poetry and artistry. And then this is just a part of her moment, just a grand, amazing, historic moment in time for her. And that's what this is all about. And as an artist, you get to express those things. You got your First Amendment. You just get to do what you do and say how you say it. It's deemed as such. And so, yeah, for those that is still available to embrace it. For those that is not available to, that doesn't mean you can't read it in your home. That doesn't mean you can't provide it in some other way to your child. It's just like she said, it's just a gutting experience to think that her heart and her work and what comes from her soul has been thrown into this movement.
And it's important to know this is how racism and bigotry works. It is irrational. It is not reasonable. It doesn't make any sense, right? Mm-hmm. This is a young woman who made her country proud when she walked up there on the inauguration stage, and as so many poet laureates in years past, think of the great Maya Angelou, right? And so many others. She delivered a poem that was intended to unify the country, that was intended to encourage us to move on, to climb this hill together, right? And think about, how so many of us felt, some of which may not have voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? And so to have this school do this, it's purely political. I think it's motivated by racism and bigotry, and it's wrong. It's wrong, and this was a parent. It's not like a group of parents complained. It's not like there was a petition drive to get rid of this. This was a parent that complained, and because of that, now her poem is being taken out of that school. Makes no sense. We better get a handle on this real quick, because today it's Amanda Gorman and tomorrow it's going to be somebody else and somebody else. And who wants to live in an America, where, artists are subject to this kind of censorship.
Yeah, well, she's been on fire from day one, and I think this is just going to add fuel to her fire, and she's going to bless us with even more incredible poetry. All right, let's move on here. Rapper Fetty Wap will spend 6 years in prison, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The rapper will also be under supervision for 5 years after his release. A New York federal court sentenced him for conspiracy to distribute cocaine. Prosecutors say the Trap Queen rapper was part of an organization that distributed more than 100 kilograms of cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl, along with crack cocaine, across Long Island and New Jersey.
I mean, this story just really makes me sad. It really makes me sad because such a talent, and look at what he got caught up in. Fentanyl kills, by the way, right? You're pushing this out into our community. Meanwhile, we're buying tickets and we're going to support you at your concert. We're buying your album, right? It's wrong, and, he's got to figure out, how to regain the trust of the community. And so, he rightfully should be serving some time. He's got some stuff to think about.
You are the sum of your choices, so choose well. And we all fall, but we got to get back up. And if you have the opportunity to redeem yourself and choose again, choose better. And choose better predicated on the lesson that you've learned from when you didn't choose well. That's all I got to say. I thought he was already serving some time. I thought he was already. I can't keep up with these rappers. I really can't. But it is unfortunate and sad because he was highly regarded and celebrated.
Well, I hope he chooses differently and a lot of the people that follow him. Moving along, gospel artist, pastor, and Detroit native Dietrich Haddon is coming to his wife's defense over a recent clip that's making the rounds online. That's gospel artist Dietrich Haddon and his wife twerking at his 50th birthday party. And that dancing has stirred up quite the debate. Some of the singer's conservative Christian followers don't approve, saying it's too racy. One wrote, quotes, "Living in these last and evil days, my heart aches for this generation." But others defend the couple, writing, quotes, "People need to stay out of married folks' business. May God continue to bless your union." Haddon posted, quotes, "It will be so dope if we could celebrate our differences instead of demonizing everyone who doesn't think like you."
Listen, post-pandemic, as the veil has been lifted, I don't have anything to say about it. I don't, feel most ways about it. If I do, it's probably a private, especially with me being in the media, it's a private conversation, with friends or family who I can trust. And then my views and opinions are left right there at the kitchen table. But, they're married and, these, Christian gospel singers and church folks are people too. So, I can see by looking at that how it can be deemed inappropriate, but I can also see how it's a man and his wife having a good time.
I think to your point, we forget that leaders of the church, that gospel artists are also people, and they make mistakes, they celebrate, they have a good time with their spouses. And I just think sometimes when we make, Christians into being having to be perfect, having to live up to everybody else's expectations, I think we do a disservice to the faith. And so, all the holy rollers out there, be kinder. Be kinder. I mean, some of those messages were really mean and nasty. Well, and for no good reason.
She's keeping them like she got them. And if you know the backstory on that story, I'm telling the truth. Nick Cannon is apparently looking for a visit from the Beehive. In a recent podcast, he seems to pit Beyonce and Bruno Mars against each other. Take a look.
I think, no offense, but I would rather go to a Bruno Mars show than a Beyonce or a Taylor Swift.
You out your man.
All right. Who got more hits?
Beyonce, what you talking about?
Beyonce got more hits than Bruno Mars?
Beyonce, single ladies, love on top, drunk in love, crazy in love. Don't play with me, Nick.
So good.
I still believe Bruno Mars actually has more
Name a hit. Name a hit.
That's a good top
Name 'em.
five.
Go ahead, name.
Ooh-wee. Y'all better stay clear of Nick Cannon. And you know social media quickly came with all the receipts. They both have the same number of #1 hits at 8. But Bey has 21 top 10 hits to Bruno's 18 and 81 100 singles to Bruno's 32. Here's the hashtag, don't come for the queen.
But they're both great artists. The whole debate seems silly to me. They're both really great artists, and you don't have to be Team Beyonce, and be against Team Bruno. I'm team for all of the above.
You team Brew and Bey.
Brew and Bey.
Well, listen, I mean, to me, they're different kind of artists. I know that Bruno has been kind of like accused of cultural appropriation. I'm not sure of his heritage. I know he's brown-skinned, but that last album,
Skinned.
yeah, that last album, the duet, that was hot, and he pulled out of his Grammy nominations. I think because he didn't really want to get any backlash or any heat for maybe pulling a lot of awards or Grammys from folks who wouldn't have got them had he stayed in those categories. So, listen, at the end of the day, as the Soulmates like to say, it's all good music, it's entertaining, and there's enough room for everybody.
Enough room for everybody, that's right.
Let the church say.
Amen. Well, a former member of Earth, Wind, and Fire, one of my favorite groups, by the way, Sheldon Reynolds, he's died. Reynolds joined the band as singer and lead guitarist in 1987. He once owned the Black Widow, one of Jimi Hendrix's guitars.
Wow.
Reynolds was briefly married to Hendrix's adopted sister, Janie. He was 63 years old.
And more sad news today as famed jazz musician Bill Lee has died at the age of 94. Lee is the father of director Spike Lee, and he was a famous jazz bassist. Just in case you didn't know, he played with major stars including Bob Dylan, Duke Ellington, and the late great Queen Aretha Franklin. He also wrote soundtracks for several of Spike's feature films, including Do the Right Thing, School Days, and She's Gotta Have It. Yeah, his father was like a mainstay in his career. You always saw him in the mix, especially as Spike's career caught fire. And Spike's movies are great, but those soundtracks, who his dad, contributed to, are awesome as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all legendary. I mentioned that Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was actually the very first concert I ever went to.
Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Earth, Wind, and Fire. They were at the Concord Pavilion.
How old were you?
In the Bay Area. I might have been around maybe 12.
Okay.
11, 12.
So you caught them like in the 80s, maybe 90s?
90s.
Okay.
90s, yeah.
I caught them in the 70s. 2 Afro puffs. I might have been about 10. It was the 70s. I had a poncho.
It's not a competition.
Yes, it is,
Courtney.
because I saw
It's
the
not a
original Earth,
competition.
Wind, and Fire.
Oh, Lord.
Prayers and blessings out to the man who just passed. But I was like, who? Because he's 87.
Yeah.
I knew the 70s crew. But anybody affiliated or a part of the Earth, Wind, and Fire, whatever iteration, whatever, is dope.
That's where you need to be.
That's right.
Up next.
But I went in the 70s.
You did. Up next, it's the best way to end the show. Black Excellence Time.
We'll tell you the latest company to partner with college basketball superstar Angel Reese. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. I went in the 70s. Original. Yes, Lord.
Okay. Mael Organics has named LSU's Angel Reese as its newest ambassador.
The star forward who led LSU's Lady Tigers to their first ever women's NCAA basketball championship back in April has just struck her first major beauty deal. Now, the partnership will include Reese's involvement in marketing, social media, and events. Reese will also hand select a limited edition product that will be available later this summer.
The Bayou Barbie has over 4 million followers across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and is part of a wave of college athletes turned beauty influencers. Reese's 17 other names, images and likeness deals with Bose and Outback Steakhouse and Mercedes-Benz, making her her net worth an estimated $1.4 million. Excuse me, ma'am?
In NIL deals. It's a wonderful look, and big ups to Mael, who definitely, made the girl look right. I was a little disappointed with Sports Illustrated because I just felt like there was something missing, like a little bit of a polish on those photos. But these photos here, she's a beautiful girl, flat out.
Yeah.
But these photos here, next level. I just felt like Sports Illustrated did not do her some justice.
Yeah, I think there's room for improvement with those photos, but let me tell you, I'm just totally in awe of her entrepreneurial skills. I mean, not only is she a skilled athlete, but she's a skilled businesswoman. I mean, if already her net worth is $1.4 million, fasten your seatbelt. I mean, this is the kind of entrepreneurship that we like to celebrate, and that's the Black excellence that we should all be inspired by.
Absolutely. For the full rundown on today's stories and more, access Fox Soul's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. Don't forget to download the Fox Soul app. It is free. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte, your favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. On behalf of all of us here at Fox Soul's Black Report, stay lifted.
If you went in the 70s, maybe, but not a 90s concert.
Keep your head to the sky.
You need to, because I won that. Stay encouraged, because I went to a 70s Earth, Wind, and Fire concert.